Good morning, all you beautiful people. Look at that. Blue sky. First time I've seen that in 10 days. We're at the garden. I'm even in a t-shirt. No flannel for this Canadian today. So today we are going to be putting in T-posts for tomatoes. I'm not quite sure how many we're putting in. I'm not sure how it's going to go. We're just going to work it out. I'm going to have 2 rows of tomatoes. But let me show you what I'm thinking. I'm not sure if it's going to go that way. I'm still kind of processing. You guys who watch my videos, you know I kind of shift gears on the fly a little bit. But let me show you what I'm thinking. Right. So here's a garden. Okay. That's all mine. For those of you who are new here, they're 40-inch or 40-foot beds. And each bed is 30 inches wide. All right. So I've got that side and that side. We're definitely growing tomatoes here. So normally I plant my tomatoes 12 inches apart. But I think this year I'm actually going to go 18 inches apart. It's just going to allow more airflow, because you really need airflow in your tomatoes, because if you don't have good airflow, you'll end up with more diseases, right? So it's crucial to have airflow. When you plant them 12 inches apart, sometimes airflow can be a real problem, because what I normally do is I have a row of tomatoes here and a row of tomatoes here, and there's not a lot of airflow that can move around there. So, and the other thing I've done in the past is I've planted my Romas here, right? And I've planted my large tomatoes here. But I'm doing San Marzanos this year, and they're a semi-indeterminate. So they're only going to get about 5 feet tall. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from Romas here or San Marzanos here and put them here, because that's south, right? South is facing this way, so the afternoon or the nice southern facing sun is going to beat this way. So I'm going to put my taller tomatoes here and then the shorter San Marzanos here, so the San Marzanos aren't shading out my taller tomatoes instead of vice versa. So that's the plan. So we're going to basically start measuring 18-inch, and then we're just going to install T-posts probably every 8 feet all the way down, and we are going to be using 8-foot T-posts, putting them in with my homemade pole pounder. That sucker weighs like 20 plus pounds. And then I have trellis netting I haven't put up yet. We'll get to that point. What do you say? You want to do this with me? All right, let's go. So here we are. We're at the other end. There's all my stuff. So this is where we're going to start with the tomatoes. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to put a T-post at this rock, right? We need access to the water line, and there's like a pathway here. So I don't want to bring my T-posts right to the edge, because then I'm going to be encroaching on my neighbor's beds, right? So we've got a little pathway here. So here's what I'm thinking. Normally I run my T-posts every 8 feet, right? Which would put it about here. But what happens is as the tomatoes grow, it bends reverse that, okay? It starts to bend my trellis netting like that, and all the tomatoes start to sag, and it's hard to get them back up, and it becomes an issue. So I'm thinking I'm going to do my T-posts every 6 feet, right? So between here and here is 6 feet. We're going to do it right on this green line. That way there's lots of room to move down the path and lots of airflow, right? And then you guys see these little plastic clips. I've put those plastic clips every 18 inches. So if I put T-posts every 6 feet, that means I can put 4 tomato plants between every T-post. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that heavy duty binder twine, and I'm going to weave it between the T-posts on the top of the trellis netting to hold the trellis netting up between T-posts, and I should not have any sag this year. So I think that's how we're going to work it. I haven't run the math all the way to the end, but when I get closer to the end with the T-posts, if the math isn't mathing properly, then I'll just end the T-post where I need to. I can always plant beans or leeks or whatever down at the end. All right, so that's what we're going to do. You guys ready to do this? All right. So I'm going to put some foamies in my ear, so I may be talking a little bit loud because it's really loud hammering in T-posts with the pole pounder right in front of your face. So I'm going to put some foamies in my ear and we are going to start. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my torch, I'm going to melt a hole right on that green line, just big enough for the T-post to fit into. And then we're just going to measure it out and we're just going to start cutting, hammering in T-posts and working our way down the line. All right, let's have some fun. Bought myself one of these yesterday. All right, there we go. Come on. All right. That's it. Just one hole, big enough for the T-post. Next, get the gloves on so you don't shred your hands up. Grab your T-post. Can't do this with gloves on. Come on, phone screen. There we go. And the fun part about working with 8-foot T-posts is they're way taller than me. So take your pole pounder and your T-post. Give it a shove. And then we're going to hammer that bastard in. So I'm going to take a measurement. They're 8-foot T-posts. I want them roughly 18 inches in the ground. So I'm just going to take a measurement and check the length. And then I'll gauge that length for the rest of them that I put down. So this is what I'm doing to make sure that I'm getting the right amount of depth in the ground. So if you're used to working with T-posts, you have a pointed end and a flat end. Drive the pointed end in the ground, right? So all I'm doing, taking my tape measure, carpenter pencil, I'm just measuring 18 inches on the flat. Like that. Of course, my tape measure doesn't want to cooperate. And I'm just marking. Just put a big scratch line on there. Can you guys see that in the light? There you go, yeah. So, and all I need to do is hammer that into the ground till I get there. Then I know I've got 18 inches in the ground. So you guys can see there's my mark. You know, it's basically just on the ground. So I know that this T-post is 18 inches in the ground now. Look at that. That's pretty damn sexy. So I'm going to be able to grow 24 tomato plants in this row. And I have a little bit of extra space here. I'm not sure what I'm going to plant there. Maybe I'll throw a zucchini there or something. And I could have more plants on that row if I wanted, if I did them every 12 inches. But I'm doing them every 18 inches this year, guys, because I want lots of airflow in there. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, next, we're going to start that next row there. All right. So here's our tomato patch. Done. So what we're going to do is on the back row, okay, we are going to grow the large indeterminate varieties. And then when I have enough of those in the ground, we're going to plant the San Marzanos, which are a semi-indeterminate, so they only get 4 or 5 feet tall. And then we are going to start here, and we're going to plant the rest of the San Marzanos here. So like I said, I can get 4 plants between each post. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. So we're gonna do 36 tomato plants this year, which is a drastic downgrade from last year, but that's okay, because this is gonna provide me lots of tomatoes. So we're done with that. Next, and the reason I stopped there also, guys, is I only have 3 of the good 8-foot T-posts left, and I want to keep those for putting up beans or something. So, all right, next is going to be installing trellis netting. So let's start with that. Now we're getting to the fun stuff. So normally I buy my trellis netting by the 3 bags. You can get them off of Amazon, and they're 30 feet by 5 feet for about 25 bucks. This year I bought 350-foot spool of 5 feet, and that was only 25 bucks. So I got 3 times as much trellis netting, and the nice thing is I can cut it to length. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start down at that end, and we're gonna use zip ties. We're gonna tie it to the top, and we're gonna string it across the top, get it nice and tight, let it hang down, and then we'll cut it here at the end. So grab the top corner. All you gotta do, put your zip tie in through here, lock her down, just like that. Oh, you guys can't even see, wrong angle. Sorry guys. There. So we just got the top zip tied up like that. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to zip tie this whole first end T-post, and that will keep everything square for me. And then I'm just going to work my way down the line. So when you get to the bottom of your T-post and you run out of holes, just bring it down as far as you can. You want to stretch it out, and all I do, wrap it around the bottom like that. And before I tighten it, I will pull the whole thing as low as I can. Well, you guys can't see very well. Let me fix that for you. There. And I'm going to pull that trellis netting as low as I can before I tighten that zip tie right there. And then I'll crank it down. Right, you see, and now basically it's tight all the way down. Oh, sorry, we're zoomed in. Now we're tight all the way down, and I'm not worried about my trellis netting low to the ground, because by the time the tomatoes get planted and stuff, they'll have a week or two to grow, and then I'll be able to just start tying them up from the bottom. So now I'm gonna have to start tying the trellis netting to all the T-posts all the way across the top, and we'll just keep moving. What do you say, folks? We got her done. So we're gonna, the inner row of tomatoes will have larger varieties and a couple of cherry tomatoes, and then some Romas way down at the end, or San Marzanos. And then we're gonna also do some San Marzanos on the front. It came out nice and tight. And you can see even the NT posts, they're sort of cantilevered over a little bit because I ran that trellis netting pretty tight. And by pretty tight, I mean literally like guitar string tight. And that's why it's pulled it down a little bit in the centers. You can see they kind of dip a little bit, but you want this tight because as your tomatoes start growing on it, it's going to pull this trellis netting down. And what can happen is your plants can start to take on like a C shape. It'll start to just literally just like pull all the trellis netting down. So when you put it on tight. And here's the trick to putting it on tight. Start at the top, okay, and work your way down. But where you put your zip ties, okay, look how tight that is, okay? Where you put your zip ties, because the weight's coming down, put your zip ties always at one of the cross pieces and put it below the cross piece through the hole. So this can't come down any farther, you see? Because the zip tie prevents your trellis netting from pulling down on your T-post. See what I'm saying? Okay, so it can't come down because it's locked in underneath that cross, see? So your zip tie would be underneath that. And always put it at the closest hole that you can. And this stuff's stretchy. So, all right, so we've got all this done. Now I gotta figure out what else I'm gonna do today. Look at that beautiful sky. That's so nice. All right, guys and gals, I'm gonna pull the plug for today. It's 3 o'clock, it's Sunday. I gotta go do some grocery shopping. I can't spend all day here. The other reason is certain parts of what I need to do in the garden I haven't even planned out, so I haven't diagrammed out everything where everything's gonna go yet. So it's kind of piecemeal at the moment. I was gonna start building the framework for the melons. I'm building basically like a 2x4 wall, the same way you would frame a wall on 8-foot spacing for my melons and trellis that. But if I go to the store and I buy all the 2x4s, I'm gonna come back here, I'm gonna lose track of time, and then my kids are gonna be calling me, wondering what's going on for supper, and I hadn't shopped yet. So I'm just gonna go and do some grocery shopping, and I'll come back next weekend. So if you guys found value in what I've been trying to show you guys and you're new here, consider subscribing. And if you're an OG on the channel, you guys rock. As always, give me a big thumbs up. I appreciate it. I've been fighting the algorithm lately for some reason. I don't know why it hasn't liked my content. And keep growing your food, and I'll talk to you in the next one. See ya.